As your lawyer, did he advise you to report the incident?
No, he didn't. He told me to, try to get it, try to move on, try to put it behind you. And I was leaving in a few days after the incident happened. But he didn't advise me in terms of what to do and where, what course of action I should have taken. But I then went back to where I was staying, and then a few days later, then flew back to Canada.
If you had the chance, which you do now, what would you say to the women of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or as women as a whole?
I would say that they need to stand up. They need to speak out. They need to get this man out of office. They need to take a public stand and a collective stand against this kind of behavior, whether it's at the hands of Ralph Gonsalves, whether it's a hand of any man. I don't care who it is. No man has the right to violate any woman on any level in that way. And I would say to the women of St. Vincent that they have to speak up. They have to become more publicly engaged. And they have to send a strong message to Ralph Gonsalves and to the men of the country that this sort of behavior is unacceptable. It is not welcome, it is unwarranted, and it is not acceptable. And a very, very clear message.
Margaret, here's your opportunity. What would you like to say to Prime Minister Gonsalves?
I would say to Ralph Gonsalves, he needs to get help. He is a sexual predator. This is pathological behavior, and he needs to get help, serious help. That he cannot continue in denial about this. He cannot continue to live in denial. The women of St. Vincent and the Grenadines have to understand that until he gets help, their lives, their being, are at risk, in constant threat. And he needs to get help, and get help immediately, and on an ongoing and consistent basis.
What has happened since you've spoken out? Has any other women come forward?
I believe so. I believe that after I came forward, 2 other women came forward. So there were 4 women, all independently. I've never met these women. I don't know them. But I think that the first woman who came forward, and I really thank her to this day, that she had the strength and courage to stand up and to speak out. That gave me the courage to stand up and to speak out and to stand up in support of her. And 2 other women then had the courage. So I think that women, and I think others have, to the best of my understanding, that other women, and this is a constant complaint, but it's gone ignored, it's gone untreated, it's gone unacknowledged for far too long. And I think the good citizens of this country deserve better. They do not deserve the likes of Ralph Gonsalves. He's not worthy to serve and to represent the citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
What do you say? It's an election year. What do you say to people who think that the reason why you and the other women are coming forward is because you want him out of office?
Well, yes, I do want him out of office. I think he needs to be held accountable for what he's done. He needs to he needs to explain to us why he behaves in this way, and he needs to be held accountable. However, I don't think he's fit to serve the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. While he remains untreated and hasn't acknowledged his behavior, that the women and the citizens of St. Vincent need to vote him out of office. They need to get him out of office. And I've been saying this even before it was an election year, that they deserve better. They're hardworking people, they're good people, they're strong people, and he's not fit to represent them. He's not fit to speak on their behalf. And given the fact that the women, their mothers, their sisters, their daughters, their nieces are at risk while he is in office and he remains untreated, yes, they do need to send a very strong message to him that this sort of behavior is unacceptable, that it reflects on them as a country, as a nation, as a people, and they do need to take a very strong position, and they need to get him out one way or the other.
Margaret, you said that the Prime Minister's issues with assaults and abuses of women is chronic.
Yes.
Since you've come out and spoken about your experience, has other women come out as well?
To the best of my knowledge, I believe in the year that I finally spoke out publicly, that in total there were 4 women. There was the first woman who came out that I gave me the courage. And I really thank her for having the strength and the courage to speak up and to report what had happened to her at the hands of Ralph Gonsalves. And I then came forward and I said, you know, I need to also come out in support of her and to tell people my story publicly. So since then, 2 other women, to the best of my knowledge, have come forward and said that they've experienced similar or worse incidents at the hands of Ralph Gonsalves. I don't know these women. I have never met them. We've all come forward independently. I think we've all given each other courage and strength to be able to speak up and to finally hold him accountable and to ask that he be held accountable for what he has done. Probably not just us, but to other women. You know, while I was in his office that day waiting to go into to meet him, there was a young woman, was probably maybe 16, 17 years old, with a 1-month-old baby that was his child, and asked me and said to me, you know, you'll probably go in and see the Prime Minister before I go in. Can you tell him that I'm here to get the money for the baby? So it says to me that he has a pattern, and this pattern has continued unchecked for God knows how long, and he cannot continue in this way. The citizens of St. Vincent cannot allow him to continue in this way.
What has the reception to you and your family been since you've spoken out about the alleged assault?
There have been, I think from the women's movement, they have been very, very supportive. Certainly, of course, by those who are, I guess, Ralph's political cronies, there has been criticism. But there have been those in the media as well who have, you know, said, here, you need to tell your story. We want you to tell your story. And I've done so. But I think that there's obviously been those that are saying that this is politically motivated. It is not at all politically motivated. I don't know anything about the political system or parties in St. Vincent. If you ask me to name them, I wouldn't know who they are or anything like that. So I have no vested interest politically, economically, or otherwise. He violated me. He acted in a way that was absolutely inappropriate, and he needs to be held accountable. And women need to be warned. They need to be put on guard that they are vulnerable. Their safety is at risk, and the necessary precautions need to be taken.
In your opinion, why did Colin Williams, the Director of Public Prosecutions, drop the case against the Prime Minister?
I don't know. I have been asking for an answer, for an explanation. That's a very good question. And to date, I have not received an answer and explanation as to why the case was dropped. I offered to come down, to fly myself down to St. Vincent so that I could meet with Colin Williams, to meet with the Inspector Lockhart, who he had assigned to investigate the case, and so that they can look me in the eye, they can know who they're talking to, and to answer any question that they wanted to pose at me. And they didn't take me up on that offer. They sent me a few questions, maybe 7 or 8 questions via email for me to answer, which I did in very lengthy answers. But I thought that they'd never asked me a question as to what happened that day in the Prime Minister's office. I didn't feel that this was a full, fair, objective, and transparent investigation at all. So I don't know what motivated him. I don't know what he felt in terms of information. I don't feel he had sufficient information in order to come to a decision or come to the decision that he made. Because I am confident, I am not lying, I am telling the truth, and I'm confident in my answers, and that's why I wanted to meet with them in person, to spend as much time or as many days. I don't feel that this warranted an investigation and a violation of such magnitude warranted a few questions via email. It required someone sitting down with me, taking a full statement, asking me questions after questions, and grilling me to make sure that, in fact, that my story was straight. But they did not take me up on that offer. I was very serious about the investigation. I was taking it very seriously. It's very clear to me that Colin Williams and Mr. Lockhart, they were not taking this investigation seriously at all.
So there was never a one-on-one exchange with you or anyone else from the Director of Public Prosecution's office?
No. In the alternative, I even suggested if you didn't want me to come down, to fly down, do you want to do a telephone interview? Do you want to do the investigation on the telephone and to have my lawyer on the line? I was willing to pay for that teleconference. They did not take me up on that offer either. So, you know, it's clear that they weren't after the truth, that they weren't after a fair and full investigation, that they never intended to have a fair and full investigation.
But they did have an investigation.
Well, what they call an investigation, I wouldn't even call it an investigation. A couple of questions. I'm the victim. So sending the victim, the primary person, the person who is making the claim or complaining against the behavior of the Prime Minister, to send the victim a couple of questions via email is not an investigation.
Did you in fact answer those questions?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. I answered them to the best of my recollection and truthfully. But I don't think that is investigation. As a human rights lawyer, I know what full investigations are like, and this is even within the human rights context. And so that is not an investigation whatsoever. It may be a preliminary inquiry, maybe. I'll even go as far as calling it a preliminary inquiry, but it is not an investigation. What Colin Williams and Mr. Lockhart conducted was not an investigation into my complaint against Ralph Gonzalez's violation of my body.
Did you ever get a response to your email, to you answering the questions that they posed?
No, it was through my lawyer that I understand that they weren't moving forward with it. And I think it's after she made inquiries. But I think it was and they didn't, it was close to a full month after I had laid the initial complaint with the police that they finally sent the email questions or attempted to contact me, close to a full month. So if they were interested in having an investigation, they would have contacted me immediately, much sooner. In fact, I understand from Mr. Kamijan that within a few hours of them receiving the initial complaint in February, I think it was February 22nd, that Mr. Parnell Campbell called him, concerned, said, you know, we're very concerned about the caliber of person who has filed this complaint against him, that it wouldn't be easy to ignore, and as well the fact that it isn't politically motivated, which it wasn't at all politically motivated. So they were very concerned. The Prime Minister's office was, and this is Ralph Gonzalez's lawyer, Parnell Campbell. So they were very concerned. Ralph Gonzalez was very concerned that they wouldn't be able to ignore my complaint because of the caliber of person that it was coming from. But they found a way in which not to engage, to ignore it, first of all. We had to file a second complaint. And it was that second complaint which was supposed to go to court that they then sent the 7 bogus questions that they did.
Have you been approached to drop the case yourself, or?
After the case started getting media attention, I was approached and received a call from Sam Kamijan asking me that he had been approached by someone on behalf of the Prime Minister asking, what do I want? So I said, what do you mean, what do I want? Well, what do you want, to drop the case or for this to go away? The Prime Minister would like to know that. And I said, I don't want anything. I don't want anything. I want justice to be done.
Margaret, thank you so much for being here today, and thank you for sharing your story. I wish you all the very best.
You're welcome.